All right, thank you. So, need these. Okay. Truth Hounds. So the name tells us something about the Ukrainian people, their resilience, their relentlessness, their insistence on confronting aggression, not just with arms, but also with higher ideals. Under Vladimir Putin, Russia has tried to erase Ukraine, to swallow up its territory, deny its right to exist as an independent country. But Putin has also tried to bombard Ukrainians and the world with lies, with misinformation, disinformation, conspiracy theories, and counter-narratives. He doesn't need to persuade you that he's right. He just needs to make it seem like nothing matters, that everyone is corrupt, everyone's guilty, there's no objective reality. Truth Hounds is the name of an organization that methodically documents the war crimes taking place in Ukraine. They have been doing this work since Russia first invaded back in 2014. Tragically, the scope of their work has expanded greatly since Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022. I want you to think about what their work entails. Instead of running from the front lines, they run towards them. Now, of course, this includes physical danger, being in places where the bombing and the shelling can be nearly constant. But this work also includes confronting the depths of war. When parents have been robbed of their children, they create a record. When people have been tortured, they preserve the stories. When there's a massacre, they go to that place to gather the evidence to prove that what happened did happen and to prove who did it. This is all by their own choice. The men and women who work for Truth Hounds cannot avert their gaze from the worst crimes imaginable. And their work matters a great deal. Because of it, prosecutors are putting together cases to hold Russians accountable for war crimes. In Kyiv, at The Hague, there will be justice for those who were lost. There will be justice for survivors. There will be an objective reality of accountability that Putin and all of his accomplices and enablers and trigger men cannot avoid. And even more than that, there will be Ukraine. And the kind of work that Truth Hounds does, day after day, week after week, is helping to define Ukraine as a country committed to values like justice and transparency and democracy. So even as Putin destroys things, Ukrainians are building something different, a stronger country, an example to the world. And organizations like Truth Hounds are leading the way. Let's take a look.
You can open Article 8 of the Rome Statute and read through every definition of the war crime enlisted there. You can find many examples of that crimes committed here in Ukraine during the Russian invasion. Willful killing of civilians, mass tortures, abductions, illegal shelling of hospitals, executing prisoners of war, mass deportation of Ukrainian citizens, altogether amount to the crime of genocide of Ukrainian nation, unfortunately. When Russia illegally annexed Crimea and then invaded distant part of Ukraine, I was among those individuals who can't stand aside of what was going on in my country and decided to form a team of documenters of war crimes. We became part of the International Partnership for Human Rights. We started to frequently travel to the conflict-affected areas of Ukraine with purpose to collect documents, evidence, testimony. When the project ended, war didn't end. We just realized we need to keep going because the hostilities were only spreading. So we founded and registered our own NGO, Truth Hounds.
Truth Hounds documents, investigates, and helps to prosecute international crimes, especially war crimes. And we do this to bring justice for victims and survivors of mass atrocity crimes. Since the beginning of Hounds, we held more than 230 missions to different areas where war crimes were allegedly committed.
We were this small family-type organization of less than 10 people. And we started to grow to hire additional people. And by the full-scale invasion, we are a team of almost 50.
Last year, we conducted almost 30 field missions to different regions of Ukraine. Field mission, it's usually a group of 4 documenters in one car or 2 cars, and we go into some point on the map where we know atrocities happen there. And also we coordinate with prosecutors. We want to help them be effective.
It is quite dangerous to work as a documenter of war crimes in the conflict-affected areas. We usually conduct our field missions very close to the front line. Speaking to the victims of war crimes, it's always emotionally challenging because these people share worst things that happened in their life. During one of our latest missions to Kharkiv region, we examined the crater from the Iskander rocket, which was launched by the Russians. We found remnants of it, clearly marked with the name and the number of this rocket. It is really a very rare finding, and it immediately verified the weapon that has been used in this particular incident.
By the time we record this video, there are more than 90,000 cases of international crimes opened by Ukrainian prosecutors. It takes really short time to pull the trigger and kill someone. It takes seconds, but to properly document everything, then to investigate, then file it to the court, then sustain the court, find and put the accused into prison, it takes really long time. Justice is a really long process.
We want the world to know the truth about this war. We want the truth in history books in the future about this war, about these events. We want to trace every perpetrator involved in committing international crimes here in Ukraine.
I hope that Ukraine further develops as a democratic, human rights-oriented state. I see Ukraine as an example of this new, democratic, young state that can be an example for many other places in the world where democracy is just a dream.
I'm a strong believer that no single war crime can be tolerated by anyone in the world. No excuse can be found for those responsible for international crimes. Justice will eventually be served.
Just to echo what Mero said, what an unbelievable privilege it is to be here with you guys tonight. Accepting this award on behalf of Truth Hounds are 2 men who have done the hard research work in the field while also leading the organization with grace and determination. Executive Director Roman Avramenko and Legal Director Timotro Koval.
Thank you. Can I have it? Sorry. Sorry, it was part of the speech. Thanks. Thank you, Matt. Essentially, we're really happy to receive this award from you because you, as a Jason Bourne, know how to make Russian criminals being arrested. My colleagues have told everything I was going to in my speech in this video. However, I will try to add something. First of all, dear ladies and gentlemen and public, thanks a lot to the Clooney Foundation for Justice for awarding us with the Justice for Survivors, Albies. While holding this award, that's why I was taking it from my colleague Dmitro, I'm recalling how we all started just these days at the end of September 9 years ago. The euphoria when the democratic revolution in Ukraine won has changed to a despair of the annexation of Crimea and Russian brutal invasion to the eastern part of our homeland. Me and many others, we turned ourselves from historians and social workers, from IT developers and entrepreneurs into war crimes documenters. And since then, we started to travel to the war-affected areas with the purpose to find and collect evidence of the survivors, to preserve them for future justice, and to chase perpetrators, of course. 2 weeks ago, we were routinely planning our next mission to the eastern part of Ukraine. A hospital was bombed, so we were going to document it. And it struck me when I was leaning on the map that the route of that mission would be the same we used to travel along since 2014. Indeed, before the full-scale invasion, many thought that under the new immense Russian onrush, Ukrainian government would fall. That human rights and civil society representatives would have to flee to other countries and work in exile. But Ukrainians sustained the punch. Front lines haven't moved an inch in many places. Of course, this wouldn't have happened with the great help of partners. And from this stage, I'd like to express our deepest gratitude to the great people of America for supporting and holding our back while our soldiers hold the sky above us. Indeed, with this help, defense forces of Ukraine, including my dear colleagues from Truth Hounds, who have joined this noble fight, are sustaining the pure evil. They made it happen that I'm standing here not as a refugee, but as a guest. The front line in Ukraine is an actual line between the good and the bad. Good guys fighting bad guys, as simple as that, just like in a movie. And I know what I'm talking about, because I know the number of war crimes we document in this conflict. This war, this big war, and in comparison to all the wars and to comparison to the Syrian conflict, where my beautiful predecessors just presented, is a very clear illustration of what happens if no proper reaction to an aggression and impunity ultimately increases bloodshed. Indifference and inaction may destroy the world order that humanity has painstakingly built since the Second World War as effectively as the wars themselves. The law of brute force will return when the right will be not the one who is right, but the one who is stronger. Stop this now is our common task. And for the right effect, we should make it spectacularly demonstrable, like in a movie. Since the big war began, Ukrainian civil society and official authorities have been doing their best to restore justice for survivors. But we are all overwhelmed with the number of war crimes. I know what I'm saying because I know how many crimes we are documenting in this conflict. And just as in other respects, we feel the support of the world in our struggle to restore justice. The docket initiative of the Clooney Foundation for Justice stepped in early in the first weeks of the Russian full-scale invasion. And since then, we have been jointly investigating war crimes. Thank you. These joint efforts of multiple Ukrainian and international stakeholders will make sure, we hope, that war crimes as a method of warfare will not become our new normality. In conclusion, I'd like to explain why we have called ourselves the Truth Hounds, not the Justice Hounds, not Punishment Hounds, but the Truth Hounds. Indeed, accountability, justice lies in the area of accountability domain mainly, But we have to be honest with ourselves first and foremost, and with others, that not every perpetrator will be prosecuted and sentenced. But for a lot of survivors, what they are looking for is the truth about what actually happened to their relatives, to their family, and to those whom they loved. They want others to recognize that the crime was committed against them. This is of crucial importance to find of what and how things unfolded and who was responsible. The truth, carefully documented and preserved, helps not to be trapped in a net of lies and misinformation. After the truth of this decisive war will be written in the pages of history books, it will find its places on archives and libraries. People will learn from them as they now learn about other atrocities of the past. And my best wish is that the volumes depicting the true face of the war in Ukraine will be the last to deal with the topic of atrocities in this library we stand in it. I hope that the world will learn from this experience and go the extra mile to prevent horrific international crimes from being happening in future. Thank you so much for standing for the truth with us.